Narcissism. It's a word we hear often, thrown around casually to describe someone vain or self-centered. But true narcissism runs much deeper. It's a personality disorder characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. On the surface, narcissists can be incredibly charming. They might seem charismatic, confident, even captivating. But beneath this carefully constructed facade lies a fragile ego, easily threatened and quick to lash out. This fragility is at the heart of narcissistic rage, a volatile and destructive force that can leave devastation in its wake. Understanding this rage and the triggers that ignite it is crucial for anyone who has encountered narcissism in their lives. It's about protecting yourself, setting boundaries, and ultimately breaking free from the narcissist's toxic grasp. Imagine a volcano, dormant for years, its slopes seemingly peaceful and serene. Then, with a sudden, violent eruption, it explodes, spewing forth molten lava and ash that scorch everything in their path. This is narcissistic rage, an intense, explosive reaction to any perceived threat to the narcissist's carefully constructed self-image. These threats can be anything that challenges their sense of superiority, control, or entitlement. A critical comment, a difference of opinion, even the success of someone they perceive as inferior can trigger an eruption. The rage can manifest in many forms. Outbursts of anger, verbal abuse, threats, and intimidation are common. But the truly insidious aspect of narcissistic rage lies in its calculated forms. Smear campaigns, manipulation, and passive-aggressive behaviors are all weapons in the narcissist's arsenal, used to regain control and punish those who dare to challenge them. Let's consider the story of Sarah and Mark. They were once the epitome of a perfect couple, admired by friends and family alike. Their seemingly idyllic marriage crumbled under the weight of Mark's undiagnosed narcissism. What started as a fairy tale soon turned into a nightmare. Initially, Sarah was captivated by Mark's charm and confidence. He swept her off her feet with grand gestures and promises of a wonderful future. He was everything she thought she wanted: successful, charismatic, the life of the party. His magnetic personality drew people in, and Sarah was no exception. But as the years passed, the cracks in his facade began to show. The man she once adored became a stranger, consumed by his own ego. Mark's need for admiration became insatiable. He thrived on the applause and validation from others, but it was never enough. He belittled Sarah's accomplishments, viewing her successes as a threat to his own inflated ego. Every achievement of hers was met with disdain and jealousy. When Sarah finally found the strength to ask for a divorce, Mark's carefully constructed world shattered. He couldn't believe that she would dare to leave him. His rage erupted, fueled by a cocktail of wounded pride and a desperate need to maintain control. He lashed out, unable to cope with the rejection. The divorce marked a turning point, not just in their legal separation, but in the unveiling of Mark's true nature. The man who once seemed so perfect was now exposed. He couldn't fathom why Sarah would choose to leave him, convinced that he was the prize, the victim in this scenario. His delusion knew no bounds. His inability to accept responsibility for his role in the marriage's demise fueled his rage and set the stage for a bitter and protracted battle. The divorce proceedings were just the beginning of a long and painful journey for both of them. Following the divorce, Sarah thrived. She found herself in a new world of opportunities, unshackled from the constraints that had previously held her back. She poured her energy into her career, excelling in her field and achieving a level of success that had always been within her reach, but stifled by Mark's constant need to be the center of attention. Her dedication and hard work paid off, earning her accolades and respect from her peers. She bought a new home, traveled, and rediscovered her passions, embracing a life of independence and fulfillment. Sarah's days were now filled with activities that brought her joy and satisfaction, from surfing on sunlit beaches to finding peace in yoga classes. Mark, however, saw Sarah's happiness as a personal affront. He couldn't fathom how she could be so content without him, and it gnawed at his insides. Her success was a glaring reminder of his own perceived failures. Each of her achievements felt like a dagger to his pride, a constant reminder of what he had lost. He'd lost his control over her, his ability to dictate her happiness. The power dynamic had shifted, and he was no longer the center of her universe. His ego, already bruised by the divorce, couldn't handle the blow of her newfound independence and success. The more she flourished, the more he felt his own life unraveling. He began to spin narratives in his mind, painting Sarah as the villain, the one who had wronged him. In his eyes, she was the reason for his misery, the architect of his downfall. He couldn't accept that she was genuinely happy without him, that she had moved on and built a fulfilling life. His jealousy grew as he watched her from afar, unable to comprehend her joy. This dissonance between his perception of reality and the actual reality fueled his rage, setting the stage for a series of increasingly desperate and destructive actions. Mark's inability to reconcile with the truth led him down a dark path, one where his anger and frustration threatened to consume him entirely. Unable to cope with his own feelings of inadequacy, Mark found himself spiraling into a dark place. His self-worth was shattered, and he couldn't bear the thought of Sarah moving on without him. Fueled by an insatiable need for revenge, Mark resorted to smear campaigns. He meticulously planned his attacks, ensuring that every lie he spread would cause maximum damage. He contacted their mutual friends, spreading lies about Sarah's character and motives for the divorce. He painted her as the villain, twisting the narrative to suit his agenda. He painted her as unstable, vindictive, even unfit as a mother. Mark knew exactly which buttons to push to make his stories believable. He twisted events, fabricated stories, and leveraged every insecurity he knew she harbored to turn their social circle against her. His manipulations were calculated and cruel. Mark thrived on this chaos, on the drama he was creating. It gave him a sense of purpose, a twisted satisfaction. He reveled in the perceived power he still held, the ability to influence how others viewed Sarah. It was his way of maintaining control. He reveled in the perceived power he still held, the ability to influence how others viewed Sarah. It was his way of maintaining control. He saw it as a way to punish her, to discredit her, to regain a sense of control over the narrative of their relationship and its demise. He believed that by tarnishing her reputation, he could somehow validate his own feelings of betrayal. He saw it as a way to punish her, to discredit her, to regain a sense of control over the narrative of their relationship and its demise. However, Mark underestimated the strength of Sarah's character and the genuine connections she had built. She was not as fragile as he had hoped. However, Mark underestimated the strength of Sarah's character and the genuine connections she had built. She was not as fragile as he had hoped. Friends who truly knew her saw through his lies, recognizing his attempts to manipulate and control. They rallied around her, offering support and solidarity. Friends who truly knew her saw through his lies, recognizing his attempts to manipulate and control. His smear campaigns, while initially damaging, ultimately backfired, revealing his true colors. The more he tried to tarnish Sarah's image, the more people began to see through his facade, and solidifying Sarah's position as the wronged party. In the end, Mark's attempts to weaponize lies and manipulation only served to strengthen Sarah's resolve and the bonds she had with those who truly cared for her. Throughout this ordeal, Sarah demonstrated remarkable strength and resilience. While deeply hurt by Mark's actions, she refused to be defined by them. She knew her truth, and she refused to engage in his games of manipulation and deceit. She focused on her own healing, surrounding herself with supportive friends and family who loved and believed in her. Sarah's strength lay in her refusal to stoop to Mark's level. She didn't engage in counter-smear campaigns or try to publicly defend herself against his lies. She understood that her energy was better spent on building her own life, not tearing down his. She focused on her career, her passions, and most importantly, her own well-being. In doing so, she not only reclaimed her narrative, but also demonstrated that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in the courage to walk away from toxicity and rebuild a life filled with joy and authenticity. Section 7. The Illusion of Control, a Narcissist's Achilles heel. Mark's desperate attempts to control the narrative, to smear Sarah's reputation, stemmed from a deep-seated fear of losing control. Narcissists, like him, crave control. They need to dictate how others perceive them and the world around them. This need for control stems from their fragile egos, their inability to cope with anything that challenges their carefully constructed self-image. When they feel a loss of control, when their carefully crafted facade begins to crumble, it triggers a cascade of insecurity, shame, and ultimately, rage. They lash out, not because they are strong, but because they feel powerless. Their actions are a desperate attempt to regain control, to reassert their dominance, to silence anyone who dares to challenge their distorted view of reality. Section 8. Understanding the why, the fragile ego beneath the surface. To truly understand narcissistic rage, we need to delve into the psychology behind it. Narcissists often have a deeply ingrained sense of inadequacy and insecurity. This stems from a variety of factors, including childhood experiences, genetics, and societal pressures. To compensate for these feelings of inferiority, they construct a false self, a grandiose persona designed to protect them from the pain of vulnerability and shame. This facade becomes their armor, their shield against the world. Any threat to this facade, any crack in their armor, is perceived as an existential threat. This is why they react with such volatile anger and rage. It's not about the specific situation at hand. It's about protecting their fragile ego from shattering. Section 9. Breaking free. Reclaiming your power from narcissistic abuse. If you find yourself caught in the crosshairs of narcissistic rage, it's crucial to remember that you are not alone. Narcissistic abuse is a very real and very damaging form of emotional abuse. The first step to breaking free is recognizing the abuse for what it is. Understand that you are not responsible for the narcissist's behavior. You cannot control their reactions, nor can you reason with them when they are in the throes of their rage. Your priority must be your own safety and well-being. Set firm boundaries, both physically and emotionally. Limit contact as much as possible and refuse to engage in their games of manipulation and control. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Section 10. Seeking support. You are not alone. Breaking free from narcissistic abuse can be a long and arduous journey, but it is possible with the right support. Surround yourself with a strong support system of friends, family, or a therapist who understands narcissistic abuse and its impacts. Therapy can be incredibly beneficial in helping you heal from the emotional wounds of narcissistic abuse, rebuild your self-esteem, and develop healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with the narcissist in your life. Remember, you are not to blame for the narcissist's behavior or their actions. You deserve to live a life free from abuse and manipulation, filled with genuine happiness. By understanding the dynamics of narcissistic rage, setting firm boundaries, and seeking support, you can reclaim your power and rebuild a life filled with peace, authenticity, and joy.